Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had such a great time last Wednesday night at World Outreach here in Tulsa, our home church. If you can, tonight we'll be at World Outreach again, getting into end times or authority. I'm not sure what we'll get into. We had a great time last week talking about special faith and the gifts of the Spirit. It's so cool to be where hungry people are. You know, we're coming to you every week to look at what's happening to show how close we are to the coming of the Lord. But if you happen to be in Connecticut this weekend or Massachusetts, we'll be in Springfield, Massachusetts this weekend. We'll be at Jubilee Family Outreach Center on Sunday morning, Sunday night, and then we're going to be in Connecticut all week. So I'll give you an update of the update next Wednesday, but Monday we'll be at Living Faith Family Church. Wednesday we'll be at Word of Life Family Church, and then it will be so cool. Thursday we'll be at the Healing School in Grace's new building, Barry and Sheila Frederick. So I'll update you on that next week. But we're coming to you every week to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord. There's so many things happening every week. I seem hurried each time because I'm trying to cram as much into one week as we can, one message as we can. You know, Jesus rebuked them. He said, you can tell what the weather's going to be, but you don't know your hour of visitation. So he wanted us to know. Even to the point in the Old Covenant, he had a tribe called the tribe of Issachar that had an understanding at the times to know what the children of Israel ought to do. So we're looking at all these things, not as an escape theology, but a hustle theology. We've got a short amount of time to get the message out. Jesus is coming soon, and we want as many people saved as we can. So, wow, let's look at what happened this last week. And probably this is number one on the list is Iran tested a new cruise missile that basically puts it within range of Israel and U.S. targets in the Middle East. Now, this is kind of a game changer because this can defy their radar, all of our radar systems and Israel's radar systems. Israel even said that Iran came out with this cruise missile that we can't stop and the U.S. can't stop. So that's a pretty big deal. I would look to see Israel in the days ahead to take those missile sites out. Now, that's a pretty radical game changer right there because you have no way to preemptively, basically no way to protect yourself from other than preemptively striking Iran. So with that, now this is interesting. There's no media about this whatsoever. And Israel's being blamed for this, but actually 2 days ago, the U.S. did a bombardment of Iranian missile sites on the edge of Iraq and Syria. They got word that Iran was about to fire one of these missiles at a U.S. base, and man, America went in there and just, there's not a lot of reporting on it, but all they called it was a massive bombardment of Iranian spots. Now, Iran responded that Iran's going to attack Israel, blaming Israel, but it wasn't Israel, it was actually the U.S. So it's kind of comical that the U.S. does it and Israel gets blamed for it. Now, that's such a game changer because those cruise missiles can hug the earth and hug mountains and go real low and stay under radar, so there's no way to stop those. So I've been waiting for something like that Israel's going to have to get crazy about. With that, Iran got mad and said, hey, once again to Russia, you've got to activate the S-300 missile defense systems in Lebanon because Israel's flying right over that territory and firing on Syria. Now listen, Israel has done 600 some odd missions against Damascus, taking out all these Iranian convoys coming into Syria. So I was intrigued that Netanyahu even said the number that were done like that. So that's pretty wild. With that, the EU said they felt like they were stabbed in the back by Iran because right now the EU is trying to get around sanctions put on Iran by the U.S. and basically told them you can't do these missile tests. And Iran came right out with the missile tests. Not only that, touted that they could hit Israel anywhere they want and hit U.S. bases in the Middle East. So, with that, I'm going to remind you a little bit about the time we live in with the blood red moons we had a couple of weeks ago, because everybody keeps saying, talk more about what happened a couple of weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, you had a blood moon, super moon, and wolf moon on the exact day of President Trump's midterm of his presidency. Now, that's kind of a wild deal because on President Trump's birth, you had a blood red moon. 700 days later, Israel was made a nation in 1948. That's pretty radical. Gets even crazier because I didn't mention some of these things a couple of weeks ago. The day President Trump got elected, it was Benjamin Netanyahu's 7th year, 7th month, and 7th day in office. The day that Trump was inaugurated, he was 70 years old, 7 months, and 7 days old. Crazy. So you have all these things pointing to astronomical events. You got the heavens speaking of it. You got, I still think this is the craziest one. People freak out when you say it, but the rapture is going to be on Feast of Trumpets. It's pretty obvious. I don't have time to get into all that to prove that, but you have our president named Trump and Vice President Pence. You have Trump Pence. So you have crazy things happening. So you have the boycott, divestment, and sanction group that's working hard again to attack Israel. You had Israel getting ready to build a building in Tel Aviv that looks like the Tower of Babel. The rabbi said this could be a start to getting ready for the third temple. That's pretty interesting to see that coming about. I mean, it's one thing after another, continually little bitty threads of things, specifically stuff like fish being in the Dead Sea, red heifer being born on the land, all these little things that we're waiting for to see to show that Jesus is just about to come. Now, with that earthquake that was on the northern border of Israel last week, the rabbis were freaking out, saying it was the beginning of the Ezekiel 38 war, but all these things take time to build up, and we know we have an urgency about us on all the things we talk about. It's because they're blatant, they're exact, they're precise. There's 50 some odd signs of the second coming of the Lord. 0 signs of the rapture. So when you get into all these things that are signs of what happened even after we leave, man, you're looking how close we are to Jesus coming back. So quite a few more things keep happening that I don't have time to get into, but let's go always to the Scripture. We always have to look to the Word. What's the Word say? Jesus said in Luke 21, 24, actually 24 and 29, when you see Jerusalem won back, when you see Israel made a nation, that generation will not pass away till all is fulfilled. So we're blessed. He said if you see 2 of those signs, but then you've got the Hebrew language restored, you've got the Ethiopian Jews brought back, you've got the fertility of the land of Israel. You've got the revival of the Roman Empire. I mean, all of these preach of what God said you'd see right before the coming of the Lord. I mean, you don't have time to get into all of them, but man, it's amazing. What I like too is the predatory birds. You have 170 different species of predatory birds started showing up in the land. That's radical. You got Russia and Crimea, Russia in the Ukraine. You've got Russia all over Syria. I wish I could put a map up and show you all the bases that Russia has in Syria right now, because they're going to attack Israel right after the rapture of the church. That's the Ezekiel 38 war. Many more things. You have men be lovers themselves who have selfie sticks. How crazy is that? So much more precise, exact signs that Jesus is coming in our lifetime. And I heard a guy say, now, Joe, if you preach on the coming of the Lord, just get everybody's hopes up. Duh, that's exactly right. It's the hope that purifies us even as we're pure. So we get into these things to have great strength, have great expectancy, and really the Lord keeps hammering me about it. Just like a woman getting ready to get married, the groom wouldn't want to be standing there watching his bride walk up and she's super depressed. No, he wants his bride to have remotely as much joy as he has. So the preaching on the coming of the Lord is to bring you joy. There's been so much perverted teaching on the coming of the Lord that produces fear. And what's the opposite of that? The Lord wants you expectant. He wants you excited so that you can accelerate and do more in a shorter period of time. So what do? We help our local church, help our local pastor, attend church more regularly. He said, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, as some would do, especially as you see the day approaching. So it's all hands on deck. It's like a 2-minute warning in a football game. So the most exciting time ever for the church. For the world, it's very scary. But for the church, this is it. This is our hour to write our own chapter of the book of Acts. So, man, have a blessed, awesome week. We'll pick up with what's happening. I mean, you've got Israel building a fence in Gaza right now. I mean, it's pretty crazy. All the stuff that's happening that points to Jesus just getting ready to come back. We're so blessed to all of a sudden see our Redeemer, see our King, see our Lord, see our God face to face. Jesus of Nazareth coming so soon. Have a blessed week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the EDU at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.
One love to overshadow.